Well, it's time for a channel update and with some commentary thrown in. And I do this from time to time, and I know every now and then I'll catch hate from somebody that'll be really upset that I'm not doing a proper book review. But I have a ton of book reviews, and I continually add to them, so I think I'm doing my job there. But one thing about this channel and the whole thing that started this is to catalog books for my children so they knew what all I have in my library. But also, now that a lot of other people are discovering this channel, I think it's a worthwhile exercise just to share how we got to this place where we're at now. And for many of us, it was a book that led us to the place we're at. So many of you, if you're on this channel, if you're finding this content relevant to your life, you probably had a book or some kind of external stimuli somewhere in your early life, or who knows, maybe even recently, that woke you up to some of the crazy things happening in the world and kind of shifted your worldview. So I would love to open it up in the comment section for discussion on that and just hear back from you what that was. And if it was a book, what book really kind of opened your eyes to things that were happening that you didn't know about, something that kind of shifted your worldview and kind of brought things into better focus, and share that with us. And for two reasons. One, I'm always looking for new reading suggestions, but even if it's material that I've covered, I'd love to hear your personal take on a particular book that steered you to where you're at now. And I think that's also helpful for those of you who are just joining the channel. There's a lot of new members, a lot of new subscribers out there. So all of this is helpful for those just starting out on their journey that need some good reading material. So I'll start by bringing up, this is Underground Bases and Tunnels, What is the Government Trying to Hide by Richard Sauter. And by the way, someone mentioned in a previous video that the clock was distracting, and someone obviously thinks I'm much classier than I really am because they credited me with having a grandfather clock, and I do not. I have an old wind-up clock over on this wall that is actually from a thrift store that I got for a song. So I turned that off just for you, so it is not distracting and clicking and timing as it is wont to do. But anyway, this was one of those books, and one of the other things, someone else had said, please hold the book still so I can screenshot it and look it up. So this is Underground Bases and Tunnels, What is the Government Trying to Hide by Richard Sauter, PhD. And I mentioned this the other day in my top 10 books on UFOs. I originally saw this advertised in a UFO magazine, but this is one of those books that I got originally in late 1997, maybe early 1998. And I had to special order this from Barnes & Noble at the time. It took about a week to get it in. And man, when it came in, I was like, could not read it fast enough. And the thing that really caught my eye, because a lot of you, if you're my age or around my age, you probably remember a lot of the lore coming out of the UFO community back in the late 80s, early 90s about joint underground bases and alien bases and that sort of thing. And a lot of that information was just so far out. Some of it was just fun to read because it's just crazy to read. But Richard Sauter did a great job of running that through a strainer and really sifting out the really good material and saying, okay, there's obviously something to these stories. Now, what is that? And that is how he arrived at writing this book. And I've reviewed this before, but what I mainly wanted to talk about here is the part in this book that really kind of shifted my focus about my thinking about UFOs and that sort of thing. And I thought about this because obviously the drone fiasco up in the northeast. But he has a section in here towards the back where he outlines how very terrestrial technology could be used for cattle mutilations, and this could be used for possibly, let's see, talking about abductions, needles, and implants, a fresh approach This is chapter 8. And he does a great job of showing how there's very prosaic technology that could be used to achieve a lot of what people associate with UFOs, and then produces the patents to back it up. So that, for me, at the time when I read this in the late 90s, that was really a game changer for me, just because up until then, the very binary approach that was presented was it's either swamp gas and hoaxes or UFOs are extraterrestrial, but there's nothing in between. It's literally, one thing is a bunch of people that just don't know what they're looking at in the sky, or it's little green men. And one extreme or the other, there's nothing else to look at. And Richard Sauter, Dr. Sauter, to his credit, was one of the first ones to really kind of push me out of that binary thinking and introduce these other ideas of these other intelligence agencies and how some of them behave and work together or not work together, how there's these warring factions in the intelligence community, and just a lot of things like that that really shook up my views in a good way and forced me to look at a lot of the UFO phenomenon more from an intelligence perspective, an agency perspective, rather than just is it UFOs or is it a hoax? And one thing happening right now, I think it's important to look at the reaction to the drone fiasco. As I'm recording this is a big ongoing thing in December of 2024. There's all this fiasco up especially in New Jersey, about these drones flying around. And many of you who followed the channel for a while know what I call my magic show hypothesis, that a lot of times when something like this happens, the very fact that we're seeing it is part of the effect. The effect on the audience is a big part of the motive. So a lot of this is theater, kind of political theater for us to digest and possibly shape our worldview or our opinions or our reactions to things. So I don't think anything going on up in the Northeast has anything to do with extraterrestrials or any foreign entities. I think this is purely probably something like the NSA or somebody like that playing around with that. So NSA minders, there you go. That's my take on that. But anyway, so I'll wrap it up on that. But basically, I wanted to just get you all thinking, those of you new to the channel, old to the channel, I'd love to hear what book it was for you that really kind of shifted your worldview, woke you up, or just changed things outright. And if you have some recommendations like that, I'd love to see them in the comment section. Like I said, this is one of those things where this is one that definitely shook things up for me. There's a lot of this stuff that now, almost 30 years after its printing, a lot of people would not be too surprised by it. But in 1995, when this book was printed, a lot of this stuff was pretty earth-shattering. And his views of the cattle mutilation phenomenon, I think, still hold up remarkably well and are still ignored today. But anyway, so I mainly wanted to make this video to get some of you throwing out some suggestions. I'm always curious what books people have read that have, shifted their entire thinking or woke them up, or however you want to put it. Please put those in the comment section. And also, if you have a particular story about something outside of a book, some other external event or something that kind of shocked you into awareness, I'd also be curious about that. And if there's interest in it, I would like to go back and recap some of how I got to where I'm at now. But like I said, I've covered that terrain before, but I realize there's a whole new audience now for that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I apologize that this is not a proper book review and leans more into the realm of commentary, but I can't help myself. But anytime there's a big wave of people coming into the channel, I'm always curious what brought you, not to the channel, but what brought you to your way of looking at the world that then, of course, brought you here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments.